I have always loved animals. Like so many girls, my love for dogs, horses, and any rodent my parents would let into the house, whether a gerbil, hamster, or guinea pig, was boundless. I read all kinds of books about animals and insects, and whether imaginary or factual, my yearning to learn about them combined with an intuitive desire to heal these animals inspired me to pursue a career in veterinary medicine. For years, this was my pursuit until the last 2 years of college, when my interest started to wane. I realized I liked to talk too much and wanted to be able to communicate with my patients. Moreover, I was told by the old, white, male, pre-vet advisor early in my senior year that because I was a woman and small in stature, I shouldn't pursue veterinary medicine. At the time, I knew intellectually this was not true, but boy, did he do a job on my confidence and impact my career ambitions. All of a sudden, I had to pivot, reinvent myself. Who and what was I going to be when I grew up? For far too long, science has been dominated by male scientists and in medicine, male physicians. I have mentioned before, even in the research labs, the use of female rats in animal studies only significantly increased after the NIH Revitalization Act of 1993, a piece of legislation that mandated the inclusion of women and minorities in all clinical research funded by the NIH, aiming to address disparities in medical research by ensuring diverse representation in clinical trials. My ambition with GynoCurious has been to break open and through the silence and absence of information about women's bodies. My hope has always been, whether in the office or on this podcast, to use our stories blended with science, and albeit sometimes very limited science, to inform us, guide us, empower us during illness and in health and healing. I don't know a woman who hasn't, at one time in her life, had to reinvent herself. Sometimes it's a cancer diagnosis, a chronic pain syndrome, and sometimes the demands and expectations of the outside world shift us, motivating us to reimagine and recreate the contours of our lives. For me, and I know for other women as well, when illness impacted my life in a big way with a cancer diagnosis in 2010, I had to rely not only on science, but my instincts and intuitions. Often, when our clinicians, accountants, families can only guide us so far, our gut feelings become our best compass. I want you to ask yourself, how often does your intuition lead you to reinvention? Do you trust your gut? Do you ignore the instincts that guide you in eating, drinking, and sleeping? Do you listen to your body? Welcome to GynoCurious. I'm your host and creator, Dr. Amy Novatt. From both sides of the speculum, we are here to investigate what it means to be a healer and to be healed. Please follow the show, rate and comment, and share with other folks in your life. Today's guest is a woman who also loves and studies animals with a degree in ethology, has worked as a model, carved her place in the historically male-dominated field of film as an actor and director, and who continues to transform, evolve, and question the world, demonstrating to all of us that reinvention is always possible. I am so thrilled to welcome Isabella Rossellini to the show today. Welcome, Isabella.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. And since we're taping on February 24th, I have to congratulate you and the rest of the cast on Conclave after the SAG Awards last night. There is so much buzz and excitement around this film.
Thank you so much. Yes,
it's my pleasure.
Very successful.
Yes.
We're very pleased.
Great. So Isabella and I met at her farm, Mama Farm, in Long Island, New York in 2024. I was there along with two other gynecologists running a retreat on the perimenopause and the menopause. And Isabella, despite her crazy, busy schedule, graciously joined us one morning to help us think about the menopause from an ethologist's point of view. So can you start, Isabella, by just telling the audience about Mama Farm and what inspired you to create such an incredible place?
Well, I think the reason is that I'm Italian, and in Italy, there is the farm very close to the city. The farmer's market is the normal way we shop, although in America they may have become popular in the last few years. It was really hard time for me to go to a supermarket or buy frozen food, and just because of the Italian tradition. And there was a piece of land that came available next to my house, about a mile away. And I bought it with the idea to create a little farm for myself, and thinking, of course, it was 28 acres, so I would just farm some. And then I met Patty Gentry, who was a chef who wanted to become a farmer. And so we knew that we were going to work with some chefs and maybe some local people. And the thing became much bigger than I thought, because there was a real need in our little community in Long Island, Bellport and Brookhaven. We live between two little villages of a farm. And we call it Mama Farm, not only because I'm the founder, but my daughter organizes all the lectures, including the one you did last year on menopause, but also mothers bring their children to see baby chicks, the season of vegetables, take walks. So it became referred as the Mama Farm because there's so many young people coming. So it wasn't really a plan to have something for the community, but it definitely became a farm for our little community.
This is why I talk about your evolutions. I mean, your life feels like this wonderful example of evolving and reinvention. And then you take this beautiful place that was two different parcels and join them together. So you also seem to, just create community around you, which is really just a wonderful capacity. We live in a world right now where there's so much divisiveness. So the idea of creating community, I just so admire. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's very healing. A community is it's a happy place, isn't
It
it?
is a happy place. So as a fellow animal lover, I must admit I have like a bunch of questions for you about ethology because I just want to talk to you about it. But I wonder, do you think that you and perhaps others who study ethology do so in part to kind of better understand human behavior?
Well, no, not really. No, no. I was really interested in animals because I always loved animals. And I was absolutely sure when my mom gave me my first little dog when I was 6 years old, after an appendix operation, that my dog had feelings. She was happy to see me. She was worried. She was alarmed. And I was always told, no, animals have no feeling. They just behave on instinct, a kind of stimulus response, but no reasoning and no emotions. And I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely sure my dog had emotions. So my father, when I was 14 years old, he gave me a book called King Solomon's Ring by Conrad Lawrence, who is the founder of the science of animal behavior. Psychology existed with Freud and Jung, but they had never really looked at animals' mind. And Conrad Lawrence did it. He won the Nobel Prize to be the founder of this new science. And this new science proved that indeed, to use Darwin's word, the differences are of degree, but not of kind. Probably all animals are able to have emotions, reason, take decision, only that we might be more intelligent, as eagle might fly higher and faster than chickens, but that there is a commonality in our behavior and in animal behavior and our emotions and ability to reason and make decisions. So I started to study that. And when I read that book, I wanted to become an ethologist. But like you, I was a little bit intimidated about pursuing science. I was born in 1952, so when I was ready to go to university, it was the early 70s, and there weren't too many women. And also the science of ethology was not taught at university, it was biology and zoology. And so I continued to work on what was familiar to me because my mom is an actress called Ingrid Bergman. My father is a director called Roberto Rossellini. So I remained in the domain of film and studied instead costume designer. I wanted to become a costume designer for films.
Oh, that's great. So I think what you're talking about is instinct and intuition. And I like to talk about those two things on GynoCurious. And just to clarify for the audience, so instinct is reactive and survival driven, like hibernation, eating and drinking, where intuition is more, I guess, reflective and insight driven, a more perhaps complex inner knowing, or what we call our gut feelings. So it's funny, I was going to ask you, do you think animals have
Absolutely.
Because I think they do. I have no science to.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. When I started Mama Farm, because I had dogs and I volunteered for the Guide Dog Foundation, so I have a lot of dogs. And I volunteered for the Guide Dog Foundation because I didn't want to just observe my dog, but observe many dogs. And so volunteering for them, it means that every year I could see many, many dogs. And absolutely, 100% animal have an intuition, a gut feeling. For example, a guide dog, it needs to guide the person who cannot see, and so they guide them. But if the blind person says to the dog, cross the road, help me cross the road, but there is traffic and he doesn't hear it because there is an electric car, the dog has to overrule the command and stop. So the dog, or she or he, the dog has a gut feeling, has understanding. If I cross it, is a dangerous moment. I should not do it. Definitely, definitely there is reasoning and making decision. It's just not simple stimulus response. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
They cannot survive. They cannot survive. The life is so full of things that you cannot, even a stimulus. Yes, in a lab, it can be the same. It can be the electric shock, so you don't take how you call it,
A maze. You don't go, right.
in a maze, you don't go there, and you learn that going there is dangerous, but it's consistent. But in life, that danger, a fox or a hawk, will not be always so there. So you
Right.
need to kind of think about it. Oh, I saw the hawk up on the tree. When I walk, let me look up to see if if it could be in other trees. I'm sure they do that. They
Yeah.
wouldn't be surviving if they didn't have a gut feeling and an ability to imagine a future and how to avoid the danger.
Yeah. Has studying, and working with bees and flocks of sheep, which are on your farm, have they taught you anything about yourself that's kind of surprised you? Has there been many mirroring or?
Not really. I cannot,
Yeah.
not really.
Okay.
I think, I have to say that I'm quite moved when I see how lamb are attached to their mother, or baby dogs are attached to their mama dog, and I see, I see it in children. You see it how children come always holding the mother hand. Even my grandson, who loves me every time he sees me, beams with feeling my ego, but he wants to play with me as long as the daddy or the babysitter, the people that he's very close to, are around. If they leave, there is a little sense of agitation. He stays with me, but I could see that he's not enjoying playing with me as much because he doesn't have his primary caretaker. So that moves me. I could see that there is a commonality in this dependence of the little one to the mama, and the mama to the babies. They really are always looking for them and making sure they are okay.
Yeah, these comparisons are so interesting and I don't know. What keeps coming to my brain is, there's so much love out there. There's so much relationship, whether you're looking at bees, whether you're looking at ants, whether you're looking at certainly human beings, but all these other animals. And I remember, I don't know if you ever read, I was young when I read E.O. Wilson's book on sociobiology.
Okay.
And it was an incredibly controversial book because it was also when I was kind of declaring myself a feminist. And, Wilson's theories were critics thought that he overemphasized the role of genetics in shaping human social behavior, which was somewhat justifying power structures favoring men. And this was at a time where men were doing all this work, social science, hard science, et cetera. Are there more female ethologists now who are kind of shifting some of these perspectives so it's not quite so?
Yes, ethology is dominated by women,
Oh,
including Jane Goodall, because
yeah.
the intuition. I asked Jane Goodall, why does she think there's so many women involved in ethology? And she said, because maybe she didn't really have an absolute answer, but she said maybe we women are observing our infant who is nonverbal, and we understand when the baby is sleeping. We understand when the baby is uncomfortable, the diaper needs to be changed, or his position has to be shifted. So we learn how to understand nonverbal. And this, or maybe it's hardwired in us. So we are able to transfer this ability to observe and be calm and have patience to the world of animals. Maybe men, scientists, are more driven by results rather than patience. So they find it a little bit boring, ethology, where you just has to sit up and just look and wait until the animal comes to you. So it is a science, but what is very interesting to me is that the scientist brought in a different point of view. You know, we always talk about evolution as the survival of the fittest, but they also brought in the survival of the friendliest. In cooperation and helping, there is also the survival. A herd of sheep that stays together and they all protect each other is because in a herd, you have more protection than if you are a single one, where, many wolves can come and can eat you. But in a herd, you can hide, you can confuse, you can break up the herd when you're running and the wolf are under. So sometimes in cooperation, and actually Darwin speculated that maybe it was maternal instinct that was the beginning. He looked at morality, he looked at altruism as could it be evolved by evolution? Because according to him, everything evolved by evolution. Can something that we give it the name of morality, so a divine quality, but could he have instead an evolutionary? And he thought that maybe, he speculated, I can understand that two mamas insect lay their eggs and they, had to attend the babies. But then one of the mother asked the other mother, can you keep a look at my babies while I eat? And then came back, and then the other mother could go hunt and come back. And so cooperation about mother, extending the maternal instinct beyond your own babies, might have been the first step to altruism. And all social animals that have to have a certain amount of altruism and a social hierarchy and rules to live together. So it's not always the survival of the fittest. It could also be the survival of the friendliest.
I like this concept. It kind of defines GynoCurious, that as a community of women talking to each other about all aspects of health and well-being, that we're in a way creating strategies, just like the matriarchy of the elephants or the flock of sheep, who are communicating to each other as a group and not just as individuals. Because as individuals, we can only learn so much. And then we have to hear, most of us have to hear, oh, what is she saying about her menstrual cycle and how it feels? Am I the only one who it's really heavy and painful for? And once we hear that there's somebody else who has the same experience as us, it kind of expands our knowledge. It certainly makes us feel less isolated. It helps us build resources and, again, strategies to just be better in our day to day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you've been in a place in your life where you had to say, I'm going to not trust my gut instincts, or where the world around you was saying, Isabella, you don't get to trust your instincts. We're saying you've got to do this, 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 and this. Has that ever been a major conflict?
It did happen. In a love story, in a heartbreak, I was absolutely sure to have a very close relationship with the man I was with. And then he left me for another woman. And I doubted my gut instinct, because my gut instinct told me that we were very bonded and he loved me, but probably didn't. Or maybe he did. He loved me and the other person, and he had to resolve it somehow. So that was the time I remember feeling in great doubt about my gut feeling, and wondering for a year or two, saying, I want to do this. Well, am I right? Before I always said, well, let me try, if I wanted to do something, like going back to study ethology at 6 years old or start to farm. I never did it with, I am going to show you, I'm going to make it. I just said, well, I'll try. I start little, with the chicken, I start with 30 chickens and it worked. So now I have 150 chicken. And then I started with 4 sheep, and now I have a flock of, sheep and goats that are about 15. So I start little, and then as I understand, I make it bigger. So I'm prudent, but I never like I showed the world that they did me wrong. But I remember after that period of the heartbreak with my partner that I doubted my instinct because I thought I was so convinced we were a happy couple. And so sometimes when I say I like to do this or I feel like to do that, but then, then a couple of years later, I said, well, I only have this, I only have my intuition. So I resume following it.
I think love can be, I don't know, it's kind of like throwing a lot of extra stitches into our patchwork quilt. Sometimes it can be very confusing and shift the fabric of our instinct and intuitions, because love is pretty powerful, for better or for worse, right?
Yeah, better or worse, it certainly is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was reading your early autobiography, Some of Me, and I'm going to shift a little bit. You talk about the definition of style, and you said, "My definition of true style is the fullest, boldest expression of a self, regardless of standards. Eye bags, dirty nails, shredded clothes, loudest voice." Does this still hold true for you? Can you unpack that a bit for us?
I think so. At least in my job as an actress, or like even this period where we're having so many award ceremony, there is a very big pressure to the red carpet. How is she dressed? Is she elegant? Is she this? Is she that? How old is she? Can she look younger than her age? How fat is she? Because fat and thin it seems to be of incredible value. So it's hard. And in my job, you're constantly confronted with what is style and how to be stylish. And I have the feeling that you can really become enslaved by it, and you can become very dependent on other people's eyes, whether it is a stylist that helps you or a designer that dresses you up. And it may not be you, you might feel uncomfortable, but you're so insecure about following your instinct. So I think it's true for a lot of women, how you present yourself to the public. But I think it's particularly difficult for actresses, not so much in creating the character for our films, but all that comes around the marketing of the film, the red carpet, the galas, the ceremony, the awards. I found those to be difficult because of that region, because I constantly have to look at myself and judge myself. Well,
Mm.
I found great joy in not looking at myself, but being curious, looking at animal, studying a language, traveling. All this fills me with joy. And when my attention is on me, because now I have to, I find it much harder to be joyful.
Yeah. You've been doing this work for some decades. Has it gotten worse with social media? And are there more award ceremonies now than there were, 20 years ago, for example?
Yes, this is a question I asked my publicist because she has been doing it for 28 years. And I remember, I came once with my mom. I think he was 78 or 79. She was nominated for an Academy Award for a Swedish film called Autumn Sonata. My mother's is actress Ingrid Bergman. Then I was married to Martin Scorsese, and I came with him to the Oscar for this film Raging Bull. Then my partner was David Lynch, and I came with him when we did a film together called Blue Velvet. So I've been to the award ceremony, not all the other ceremony, because I always were accompany somebody who was nominated. I wasn't. So I don't know if I only went to the most important, which is the Academy Award. And I remember they were busy giving interviews and going to other parties. But this is the first time that I am nominated. And when you're nominated for the Academy Award, there's other awards like the SAG Award, which is our union award that we won yesterday. There is the Golden Globe. There is the Critics Award, the Women Journalist Award. There is many awards, and you kind of campaign. It's the first time I'm doing it, and it's a real full-time job. And I asked them, I don't remember my mom being so busy. She won 3 Oscars. She was nominated 7 times. I don't remember that this, and she did say, oh, definitely it became bigger as it became broadcast on television. I think the red carpet, I think a lot of people look at the red carpet. They don't even look at the film. They just look at the red carpet to just say, oh, she's beautiful. Oh, she's awful. Oh, look at that. It's a kind of a game. It's not very serious, or it's not very, but it's a little hard to be the object of those comments. And or to be thumbs up, thumbs down. It feels like I feel like a gladiator. But uh, so yes, I think it augmented a lot more. When we do the press, when we enter the awards, there is a lot of journalists, and there used to be a lot, but now there is much more. What you see on television, which is people entering and saying goodbye, for us is 2.5 hours. The red carpet is 2.5 hours in order to serve every press. So it's as long as the ceremony. And there is influencers and, yes, I don't know. We do it, and I feel like I'm spinning out of the planet because I'm not a very big social media person. I have an account on Instagram, but I'm not in TikTok. I don't even know how to access it because I'm old. I belong to another generation, and I don't want to spend my time learning about digital world because I never learned it well enough. I rather just observe my dogs, my sheep, work at Mama Farm.
I hear you. I hear you. In promoting this podcast, I'm being told by my social media person to do this, do that. And I'm like, it is so not me. It just isn't. I just don't want to really focus on me. I want to focus on healing. I want to focus on taking care of people. I want to focus on understanding women better, but not really about me. But it's the industry, if you will, whether it's a film or of medicine or really anything else in our
We
world.
communicate among each other.
That's
Yes.
right. That's right. Well, I also read in that same autobiography, you wrote, quote, "To me, fashion and cosmetics must help define elegance, style, and allure. And the idea of eternal youth seems so inelegant, unstylish, in fact, unintelligent." So you had wisdom even back then. uh, I
But
like this.
I was working for a company, a very fantastic company, cosmetic company called Lancôme. But now
Hmm.
I'm working with them again. But when I was 42, they let me go because, and we were very successful. And when I was talking to my executive and I asked a rationale why they would let me go since we were so successful, they said, you're doing I was modeling for them. So he said, the advertisement is about the dream, it's not about the reality. And women dream to be young. So a 42-year-old cannot represent that dream, and they let me go. But now there is women executives, something that didn't exist then. And when she called me back 23 years later, I said to her, but I am 23 years older. What happened? And she said, I think that we women have a better understanding of why women are attracted to fashion and cosmetic. We're doing it because we like to feel better, make it better. It's a game, it's a play. And that playfulness was not really captured in the early advertisement when the men executives were really understanding fashion and makeup as it was addressed to them as a tool of seduction. And I'm not saying that it isn't a tool of seduction. If we go out with the men we like, we dress up well, we do makeup. So it is a tool of seduction. But we also do it when we do not go out and to seduce a man. And that was the part that was never told. And now there are women executives. And so there is a playfulness and a joyfulness to using makeup that before maybe was not expressed.
Yeah. What I've noticed, and I may be wrong in this perception, so we certainly should talk about it. What I also think, I think fashion, cosmetics, the whole world of beauty has always been about self-expression, but even more now that there's this way in which, you look at particularly some of the young actors, and they are so willing to be against the grain, whether it's a bald head, whether it's a dress that's really quite different, et cetera, et cetera. And, maybe the world of rock and roll has always been a little bit like that, but
Yes,
even in the
now
world,
it became,
yeah,
they gave us the key to understand how to use it. Even, it doesn't have to be outrageous, but it is a way. I have to say something very strange to me. It made me laugh, but I do my makeup, my personal makeup traditionally. And one day I said, I'm covering up my, what you call this, under the eyes, the bag, and
the bags, yeah.
I cover the blemish. I am saying elegance is who you are. But then actually, when I do my makeup, I'm using it, a philosophy that is trying to make me look younger. So I thought, I have to find a makeup that it is the expression of creativity. But I don't want to go as far as Lady Gaga, because I'm too shy. I can't be bold as her. And incredibly enough, I saw it in a man. There was an employee of Lancome, and uh, he used some makeup, but he used it as an expression of his creativity. It wasn't to look like a woman. It wasn't to look younger. It was just, but still, it was because in Lancome you can express yourself, but it has to be a little bit respectful and traditional. So incredibly enough, I always say to Olivier, you are my muse about makeup. Can you imagine a man had to be that? But yes, so nails no, today I don't have it, but nails, different colors, or there is a new product that Lancome does because they understand there is this tendency. And even a tendency like me, I want to be creative, but it has to be simple and rapid. I don't want to stay 2 hours a day doing my makeup every day. I already do that for my job. So they create product that you can use on your lips, on your eyes, on your cheek, and you can use it. So it's interesting. Yes, definitely makeup has become more like fashion, an instrument of expressing your own creativity.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that you use the word elegance. It's not a word that's often used anymore when describing the beauty of a person or the way in which he or she or they are styled. And maybe it's old-fashioned of both of us, I don't know, but for me, it so encapsulates the expression of self, an awareness of how we are a part of a community and a world. In a way, both the beauty, the power kind of, and the challenge of beauty and self-expression. I don't know. I just love the word elegance and elegant.
I like the word elegance. I think that, when Lancome asked me and didn't renew my contract, I asked myself, what do I look? What do I want to be? And I thought, I hope that fashion and cosmetic gives me tools to be elegant, sophisticated, but not particularly younger than I am,
Right.
I think that's why the word elegant and sophistication came into my vocabulary.
Yeah. Do you think also the awareness of kind of health and well-being has changed the way in which companies and the world of beauty has shifted too? That it's not just about appearing beautiful, but also being well, being healthy?
I can't tell. I
Hmm.
can't tell really because first of all, the world is so enormous, and and
That's
uh,
for sure.
and there's so many expressions. It's very difficult to generalize. I mean, I can only know for myself. I always say, you know, I didn't do any plastic surgery, nor I did any Botox, and then I say I cannot have an organic farm and eat organic food, and then how do I reconcile that I do Botox injection and eat organic? It just doesn't seem to marry. So, for me, I haven't done anything, but also I haven't done anything because partially I was marginalized by the industry when I hit my 40s. So I became an ethologist. I did other work where your appearance was not as important, and I didn't feel that pressure. Now, all of a sudden, my work as a model and as an actress is hot again. I didn't expect that at all. I'm completely surprised and delighted. But at this point, it's too late. I'm soon going to be 73. When am I going to do a plastic surgery to look like I'm 63? That, defeats, I'll lose the war. So I stay healthy and do nothing.
Well, I'm so grateful that you are modeling that, whether purposely or not, because I meet so many women in my office who are struggling with their wrinkles, struggling with the way their body is changing, and I get it. I'm as vain as the next person, and I wonder whether I should
But
fix my chin. But
I don't think it's vanity. I think there is a social pressure.
oh, interesting.
And yeah, I think that looking at women say, oh, we are all vain. I don't think it's vanity. I mean, vanity to me has maybe a negative connotation. I think there is such an enormous pressure.
There is.
Uh, I don't know how it has to be a cultural shift and a collective cultural shift, and it has been. We do, for example, Lancôme, that it is a big company that really responds or does marketing research. It's not a political movement to do marketing research. And right now they have people like me and from 19-year-old to 73, 74 years old representing their brand. Because they did a marketing research and the women demand that. And women also of all races, of all weight. So there is a shift. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think about the amount of imagery around women athletes, which is all about strength and power and achievement and kind of the way fashion and sports have mingled. I think that's terrific. Yeah. So we're going to shift a little bit. We're coming to a close, but I have to talk about green porno. So for those listening, in 2008, Isabella did a series of short films about animal sexual behavior. And as someone else who likes to talk about sex, because I'm a gynecologist or I'm a particular kind of gynecologist, I wonder, they're so fun, they are creative, they are educational. Like, where did that muse come from? They're so great.
The Sundance Channel commissioned me. They reached out. So this is a channel that the artistic director is the great Robert Redford, the actor-director Robert Redford, who created the Sundance Festival, Film Festival, and Institute to encourage people in the industry to expand what they're doing. So perfect example, me. I'm an actress. Do you want to direct? What would you like to do? And then Redford said if he wanted to commission short films because YouTube has just started, and he thought it was the opportunity to repropose short film format. It was very popular at the beginning of cinema, in the beginning of last century. And he wanted to do a series. So the film were to be 2 minutes long, in the subject, possibly of environmental subject. And at first and then one day really I said, he had on this television program a lot of things called green transportation, how to green your house, how to eat green and organic and all that. So I said green porno. And actually the name was so powerful that it sticked to my films. The film became very popular in YouTube, but because of the word porno, we couldn't finance them by finding advertisements. So I did another series called Seduce Me, about all the strategy of seduction. And I did another series that you might be interested called Mamas, about maternal instinct. And maternal instinct, for example, see how important it is to have women scientists. Everybody, if anybody say, what is maternal instinct? Oh, it's the love for babies. Yeah, but this love for baby can be expressed in many, many different ways. There are mothers that melt themselves, like there is a spider that melts itself so the babies can eat her. They're cannibals. There is some animals who eat a few babies because they have so many and they can't really raise them all. So they eat a few to fuel themselves to breastfeed the remaining one. So the expression of maternal instinct is vast and was studied only recently by women anthropologists, ethologists, evolutionary scientists. So women point of view can be quite interesting. I was surprised that maternal instinct had never really been studied. So I did a whole series about maternal instinct, Mama.
That's great.
The Criterion channels, but a lot of them are also still in YouTube. We have to clean it up from YouTube, but I don't know how to do it.
Did you get any negative feedback about it? Because it was probably pretty provocative in 2008.
Not really. It's so avant-garde, so marginal.
Right.
That, it found itself slowly. And a lot of people now have seen my film, but it was very marginal. It was never like the industry behind it. I worked so much on the periphery of the industry in the avant-garde. Yeah.
So those of you listening to us speak today, please, please, please go to YouTube and look up green porno because they're just delightful. They're just
Thank you.
delightful. Yeah. All righty. So I think we have to just briefly talk about reinvention because, again, I mentioned it in my intro, and as we age, there's far too many times where we're told, quote, you can't do this anymore, or, oh, are you sure you want to do this? And I guess I wonder, what would you say to someone who says to you, oh, you can't do this anymore, or don't even try? How would you respond?
Well, I'm just thinking, I mean, they don't say that about acting. I mean, they say that when I was in my 40s. Nowadays, there is room for older women, very old women. There is room. There is an age that is difficult for actresses, that it is when you cannot, I mean, not that you cannot be, but there is not a tradition of telling a romantic story about a woman of 50, so if you're a love interest, you have to be young. But then there is a lot of roles for very old women. And that, I think that's what happened to me, that maybe as an older actress, there is me, Helen Mirren, the great Meryl Streep, so we're not that many, but there is a group, and, we're lucky to continue to work. So I never hear give it up when it comes to acting. I heard it when I was younger, in my 40s and 50s, but I don't hear it now.
So
Actually,
ironic.
say I cannot do it. Sometimes I say, but listen, I'm 73 years old. I cannot go to Poland for 6 months to shoot a series because I need to do my osteoporosis shot. I need to do my exercises. I need to see my doctor. At a certain age, you have a certain medical schedule. I cannot leave for 6 months without coming back home. And besides, I would be very nostalgic and heartbroken. But the young people, they don't realize that, or even the 2.5 hours that it takes the red carpet. I said to my publicist, did you work with Maggie Smith? Did you stand up for 2.5 hours during the red carpet? She said she could do 3.5. I don't know if that's true, but I want to have the same treatment as Maggie Smith, but apparently she was even more stamina than I have. I couldn't win.
It's so hard to, be true to ourselves, listening to our bodies, responding to our aches and our pains, and trying to figure out what do they mean. And then kind of pushing ourselves too and saying, okay, I really don't want to do this 2-hour red carpet, but this is what is demanded of me, and I'm going to do it and maybe be exhausted tomorrow. But, I'm going to push through it. And I think there's a push-pull maybe throughout our lives, but particularly as we age.
No, there is definitely, and in every job, every job it becomes more demanding. For example, a regular film, when we shoot a film in America, not in Europe, there are unions that are stronger. So in Europe, you cannot work more than 10, 12 hours a day. But in America, you can easily work 16 hours. And last week, I was working on a set, and it was a 15-hour day. And by the end, I was so tired.
Yeah.
No, I mean, rightly so, but an exhaustion that I thought, this is my age. Because when I live my regular life, I don't really feel that much different from when I was 40. But then when you have to do the red carpet and stand on high heels for 2.5 hours or work for a 16-hour day on the set, that's where you feel, I can't do this anymore. That is so hard. And actually, all the people that I'm working with, there is my agent, my publicist, I don't think they understand it because they're much younger than I.
I think that our next endeavor should be a line of sneakers that go with these gowns so that every woman on the red carpet can wear these great sneakers and not worry about high heels. Ay, ay, ay.
Oh, high heels, yes, is the last. I don't wear them. I wear short heels. Yes, I always say it's the last, the last torture, like the court.
Right.
I don't know. When I look at high heels, I always see an expression of I don't know, of something. It can't be pleasant. It can't be pleasant. So why do it?
Yeah, I have to think it's a vestige of or a manifestation of the patriarchy that we might want to eliminate. I mean, even though we like the way our legs look, it's torture to spend any length of time in them.
And unhealthy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. So we are coming to a close, and I like to end GynoCurious, and you've already mentioned so many ways in which you have pleasure in your life. But if you had to just speak to a pleasure that you haven't yet mentioned, is there something you do for yourself that gives you joy that you make sure you visit as much as you possibly can?
I like to be home. I
Mm,
travel a lot for my work, and I like to be home because I'm with my animals and my family. And also, I like the routine of I have a swimming pool. I had a major back operation, and so I often have very painful back. I have 17 vertebrae that are operated. So I have a small pool with hot water where I do water exercise, and that gives me a tremendous physical how you say relief of tension but this is very hard to do when I'm traveling, and also eating when I want and healthy food, because I'm so often in hotels and the food might be delicious but is always there's a butter or there's something that you ask for a simple coffee and it comes with a chocolate and that you swallow the chocolate and feel very bad about it. Yeah, when I'm home, it's really, I feel the happiest.
yeah. Well, well, I wish for you a continued balance between the success of your acting and modeling and living in the world at large and time at home in water. It's so healing. It's so healing. Thank you, thank you, thank you
Thank
for
you
your
so much,
time.
Amy.
Yeah,
You know, Amy, I want to tell you something interesting. Two things
please.
interesting. First of all, a lot of animals don't go in menopause. And it has been studying right now because some whales and maybe elephants go in menopause. And that is where they see that the role of the grandmother is what is called the grandmother hypothesis, when the role of the grandmother is very important for the family. So there is a period of your life where you reproduced, but you have the mama, the old mama, taking care of the teenager, adolescent children, and babies in animals, and also is the matriarch. It gives, remembers there is a water source there, or the salmon run is at this season. So there is an incredible role for older wisdom in matriarchal society. And that is a new study. They found it that there is in orca that live in very big family pods. It's been analyzed in elephants also that have a matriarchal society. So I'm fascinated and wonder how did menopause came about. If the goal of evolution is to pass on your genes, why do we live so many years unable to reproduce? So to me, this is a fascinating subject that I am trying to read as much as I can in the latest studies, and they are verifying in different animals that live in society if menopause exists. And another thing that is very funny, when I did my series, Seduce Me, Darwin called secondary sexual characteristics everything that was done for seduction. For example, birds singing, dancing, feathers, a colorful feather, the rooster that is so colorful and sings to seduce the hen. Those are secondary sexual characteristics. The primary is, of course, the penis, the vaginas, in our case, that one we need to reproduce. But the others is seduction. And Darwin speculated. So one of the strange things about us women is that we have breasts that are swollen throughout our lives. All other animals, including the closest one to us, chimpanzee, gorilla, they only have swollen breasts when they breastfeed their babies, and then the breast is reabsorbed. So they think that maybe our swollen breast is our secondary sexual characteristics. It corresponds to the tail of the peacock. And if you think about the décolleté, the low-cut dress, the push-up bra, I think there is a point.
It sounds right on target to me. It's a very interesting question. Like, what are human secondary sexual characteristics versus the bird versus the, I don't know, fish, whatever. And and then yes, and then questioning how that plays into or doesn't play into the role of the agent, saying how those secondary characteristics change or evolve as we age, and do they have a role, not have a role, and the grandmother hypothesis
Been
is
analyzed.
Yeah.
And not only has it been analyzed because it's women scientists that are looking at it.
That's right. That's
Yet,
right.
And the survival of the fittest, instead of the survival of the friendliest, the cooperation, the role of the grandmother, the role of menopause has never been looked at. So science is going to be very exciting and giving us a lot of answers.
I look forward to the science that reflects all the power and beauty, intelligence, innate and learned, that women have demonstrated over centuries, but it has been poo-pooed or, yeah, honey, we'll take care of that, just dismissed. And what you and I know to be true, whether it's in the bees or the butterflies or in humans, us females have an amazing capacity.
Definitely.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you. I hope today you get some opportunity to eat well, rest, and maybe get some warm water to surround you.
I'm in Los Angeles, so interviews.
Oh, okay. Well, breathe deep, my friend. Breathe deep.
Thank you so much.
And I'll look forward to seeing you at Mama Farm, hopefully in the future.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amy.
My pleasure. And thank you to Jen Hammoud and Maddie Rosenberg, my co-producers, and to all of my listeners. Thank you for listening. Be well. Listen to your instincts and intuitions. They are the greatest of teachers, not to be ignored.